Hello everyone. Welcome on today's talk. As Google Cloud is growing, so it's no longer that we need to ignore it. Everyone is trying to learn the cloud, and that is where this entire series going on. So today I have a good friend of mine as well as very known in Google community as well as in industry. He created a lot of content around Google, and he's a Google authorized instructor as well as Google developer expert. So the entire idea of today talk is to understand how anyone can learn Google, because our today's speaker is having a 20 plus year of experience as a software developer, as a project manager, as well as a program manager. So he's carrying a lot of experience with him, and from the early days of GCP he is learning, sharing a lot of great content, and he also shared about his plan for this year, because we are connected through social media. So he was putting that what he's trying to learn this year, especially around the data. And recently he completed the Looker certification, which is a BI tool. So let's hear from him also that how anyone can start their journey to learn about GCP, and we will take questions also in between. So enjoy the next 1 hour discussion with us. Okay, welcome Satish. How are you?
Good man. Very nice to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. So how's going? Like how's your new vision going on, as you mentioned about that you are started or you are putting more efforts around the data and ML side.
Yeah.
So yeah. So how's going
So
on that?
it's going on fairly well, actually. One of the things, obviously, is we've got these plans about what we want to do, but then there's obviously paying customers, commitments that we have in terms of work, and there's honestly only so much we can really get done. Which is why I think putting down a goal for yourself about what else you want to do is great because two things happen, right? One, you have set goals for yourself and you want to follow on that. One of the other things that happened is, I don't know if it's maybe a result of what I put online, on LinkedIn, saying that, hey, this year I want to do a lot more additional learning on data engineering, machine learning. I had somebody reach out to me for a project that now I'm very excited about. It's
Okay.
still too early to talk about it, but
Okay.
exactly in the kind of area that I wanted to do some work
Okay.
apart from having the certifications, right? So somebody reached out to me, and it's kind of become a way for the universe to say, you know what, hey, you want to do this? We've got something like this. Maybe we can do something to. I don't know if it's a result or because I put out that LinkedIn post,
Okay.
but it has kind of materialized, and hopefully that project will also come through. So I'm looking forward to it, and that's important because one of the things with learning is maybe we can learn in a bubble, but unless you go and practice it, right? Unless you go and become a practitioner, unless you go and practice it, you're not going to get the same amount of knowledge and learning merely from just by reading a book or watching a video or even just doing the certification. So I'm looking
Right.
forward to this excitedly.
Great, great. Like it is something like you are saying that target is there and it is pushing you towards that. Like obviously,
Yeah.
universe is working around that area.
Yeah.
Great, great to hear your thought. Okay, so let's start to hear from like your journey, because you are having a different role. You have played a multiple role in entire your 20 plus year of journey.
Yeah.
So just want to hear, because everyone is interested to know, especially from the experienced people point of view, that
Yeah.
when was the first time you interact with the cloud and how you came into the GCP, because you are very much deep dive into GCP, because GCP may be bit latecomer in the market than the other two major provider, but obviously it is catching up. They are coming up with their newer kind of services, which is kind of a reinventing the wheel. And yeah, so just want to hear like, so
Uh,
how
if I'm
GCP.
just answering about Google Cloud, it wasn't something planned. In fact, for quite a long time, I think all of us have been quite enamored and excited by Google products, right, as such, because the scale at which they work, the amazing things they do in terms of search, YouTube, and even as far back as 2010 and all that, when Google Workspace at that time G Suite, right, Google Docs and all came, it was quite exciting, right? Hey, they're doing amazing stuff. But very honestly, like you said, right, Google itself, though it existed in name, Google Cloud existed in name, it wasn't really capturing a big chunk of the market at that time. and the projects that we were doing really didn't involve it. And in that period, the early 2010s, I was working on a project that didn't have any cloud at all, right? It was completely offline, and I was doing a lot of program management. Later, and initially it was project management, a lot of people issues, a lot of travel issues. Those are the kind of things that I was dealing with. And then once I came off that, again, I was like, what should I do? What should I learn? And the kind of projects that I was working on, the kind of startups that I wanted to work with, they were again looking at cloud, right? Everything was starting to become on the cloud. And once I moved out of certain other companies, like for example, I was working with Red Hat for a while, right? For a year until they moved very far from where I live. And then I was like, I don't want to do the travel. So then I was like, okay, what's the next thing to do? And it's in the course of that, trying to figure out what applications do I want to build? What technologies do I want to build it on? That I again chanced upon Google Cloud because it was having a resurgence in the market. There was a lot of additional marketing and sales happening. And then when I tried it out, it was much better than some of the other clouds that I've dealt with, right? And then I said,
Okay.
what's my goal? To get some projects done, right? Or of my own, some things that I wanted to get done. And I might as well just focus on one. And it turns out that it was a good choice because Google Cloud has proved to be very good in terms of technology. And they are also doing a very strong marketing and sales push, which is bringing a lot of these big customers, right? So
Okay.
it's driving a large part of the cloud ecosystem today with advanced technology, with advancing a lot of learning. And it's just riling up the ecosystem very well, a lot of job opportunities. So I think I landed in a good place with a choice that I made, and I'm happy with it.
Okay, great, great. Yeah, even I remember that I started learning about GCP when Compute Engine was in beta. Even
Yeah,
like, yeah, I read that the history that App Engine was kind of a first service, which is back in 2007, 8 kind of days. And then Compute Engine, like, it was a kind of wow moment that maybe in 20 seconds it just spun up like that. Yeah, a Linux
yeah,
machine, just maybe a very, very, what I can say, a very minimalistic UI experience was there and just spin up. So yeah, I tried in early days, but being as a full time, my focus was on some other platform. But wherever even I got the opportunity, so great to hear from you that how you landed on that part. So
your
yeah,
what you said about App Engine reminds me that even I, in the beginning days, I was almost entirely working on App Engine, right? Because
okay,
many times in hackathons and small projects, I was working on my own. I didn't want to deal with infrastructure, and I didn't care about Compute Engine. All I wanted was to write code, put that up, and then have people use it. So for me, for a long time, in the beginning, it was only App Engine. I didn't care about anything else, and it was only later on when the what I needed to get done expanded that I started looking at other things also, like compute and all the new things that are.
great, great. Okay, so just want to hear like you now touch on the area of App Engine that is
Yeah.
purely developer point of view. Okay,
Mhm.
so can you share around that? Is it something important or it is necessary to learn about networking, Linux operating system, and all those things to learn about cloud, or a pure developer can start? Because this is kind of a confusion most of the people carrying, be it as a fresher, be it as a some experienced person who is having a development experience or maybe a 10 plus year. So
Yeah.
people may shy or confuse that I am a developer, I don't think cloud is for me. Someone
Yeah.
is reaching out to, I believe, to you as well as to me, that I am just a Linux or network guy, I am a CCNA, but I don't think cloud is for me. So now
Yeah.
you covered a lot of things because you are coming from a developer experience and you done, I think, projects and design from the ground. So what guidance you want to give here?
The answer is you don't need to do a deep dive. When people ask, "Hey, do you need to know networking?" The answer is yes, you need to know a little, but you don't need to do a deep dive into it, right? Because everything is being accessed over the network. You need to be doing things like load balancing to an extent. You need to make choices about which region an app engine application is going to run, right? And that has an implication on networking, right? Or where you run, what is the latency? Those are based on things like networking. You obviously have to think about things like security. So a good role on the cloud is somebody who would have a good solid foundation on key technologies like storage, networking, security, identity and access management, and then maybe focus on say development, right? So you can definitely do it, Without knowing anything else, you could probably write an application and put it up. But at the same time, you would do better to have basic concepts about how security works in the cloud or how networking works in the cloud. That is different from how networking and security is in general. So in the
Okay.
early years, some of the things that I was doing was working on core networking, right? We were writing some SNMP protocols, we are writing some Bluetooth protocols. So even though I have done that, you don't really use any of that today in the cloud kind of networking, right? In Google Cloud, most of the things are taken care of. You will only need to know only need to know about applying the networking concepts, right? So, for example, how do these things connect? If you want to connect from one data center to a cloud, what are your options, right? So you need to understand what is VPN.
Okay.
How does networking work? Um, I'm sorry. How does encryption work? How is data transferred over a public internet and yet become safe? Right. So a mix of security, a mix of networking, and that will serve you well. It's the same thing. Even if you're doing independent development on your own computer, it
Mhm.
makes sense to understand things like, hey, what is a chip? Right. Will the code that I run here run somewhere else? Right. What is a hard disk? You don't need to be a hard disk engineer or a chip engineer to be doing that. Right. So that's the same approach to the cloud. You can bring your primary interest and your primary knowledge. If it is
Okay.
coding, of course you
Mhm.
can do that without having to know everything else, but it would be good to have some knowledge of everything else too.
Okay, I believe, yeah, this is very important part, that yeah, few things are must to have, few things are
Yeah,
good to have. So
exactly.
I believe the point which you are trying to share, that we need to leverage our existing experience rather than thinking everything from scratch, because maybe again it's not a time that everyone can put maybe hundreds of hours to learn everything from the basics of a different set of technology. But yeah, at least knowing the overview is, I think, important to be part of maybe any cloud project.
Absolutely. One of the things also is when you said you can bring in an existing experience, you have to be slightly careful also in some cases because, as I said, if I come from a core networking background, which I don't, but if I did, I can't carry over those same ideas exactly the same way into the public cloud because it functions very differently, right?
Okay.
So you also have to learn to unlearn some of these things and say those things are not applicable, and be okay with letting go of that knowledge and say, you know what, there's a different way of doing things here. Let's try to figure that out. So it's definitely going to help you, the existing knowledge, to understand how the cloud works better. But there are some things you're better off just letting go of.
Okay. Okay. Great. So yeah, just want to hear from you that people came with this question: is GCP has a market? Shall I start my GCP as my first choice of cloud? And you are kind of a GCP pro, and you are again having a lot of experience around that. What's your point here? Like.
My viewpoint is that if you choose to do Google Cloud right now, you're going to be heavily in demand, right? The market has a heavy demand for Google Cloud engineers, which is why the highest paying certifications today tend to be Google Cloud certifications, the professional architect or the professional data engineer, depending on the survey that you look at.
Mhm.
So right now, the demand for Google Cloud professionals is outstripping the supply by a large amount, right? So you will be playing in a field where where you will stand out. This is not to say that there isn't value or demand for people in AWS and Azure and all of that, right? The market there again is huge. I think if I remember right, AWS today has about 40% of the market, and I think Google probably about 15 or something like that. I'm not exactly sure of the number.
Mhm.
So there are large projects even for based on AWS, and there is a lot of demand for AWS and Azure engineers. So you could always find an opportunity there, but also there could be a considerable amount of supply, right? In the language world, if you look at this, right, Java used to exist for ages, and
Yeah.
today you can find a lot of Java engineers, right? But there's a heavy demand today for Go engineers,
Exactly.
Golang engineers, and just isn't enough people who write Go code that much. So that's what you're seeing. So it's not that the demand for Java people or in the analogy for AWS or Azure people will go down, but there is extremely high demand for people who understand Go, for people who understand Google Cloud, and it means that you will do well to pick that up as your primary cloud option. And it is not that there aren't projects, right? There are a large number of customers shifting to Google Cloud, and
Mhm.
almost all the service companies that I know, even if you're based out of India, right, and other places,
Mhm.
and also the product companies are hiring in large amounts. I was having a few discussions with people recently, and somebody mentioned, anybody who has got a certification, we're willing to hire them, right?
Wow.
It's kind of like that. That's the demand, and you can see that even Google is ramping up their efforts to get people qualified. I think in October they had
Mhm.
a blog post saying that they are going to train, I forget the
Few
number,
millions.
was it 40 million or 4
Yeah,
million or what
yeah,
was it?
yeah, 40 million, I believe. Yeah, few million,
Okay.
like they want to train and all these things.
Yeah.
There are some
So that's
programs going on, right?
exactly, the large number of programs going on. So you can see that the demand is very high, and therefore somebody who's looking for, if that, when you said, somebody's planning to move in, probably because of job opportunities, probably because of salaries, or probably because of a challenging assignment. I think all of them are available on Google Cloud, and people should definitely try it.
Right. I believe the people who are listening or who are going to listen this talk really, really maybe rewatch the words he mentioned that yeah, demand is there, Google is picking up, and apart from certification, obviously the service maturity is there. There are a lot of what I can say emerging technology which Google innovate and make it
Yeah,
available on a platform. And we are not talking nowadays a scale of few million, maybe a hundreds of million user for any application nowadays is just a thing rather
yeah,
than I say any big thing, but just a thing. So thinking the scale of Google and the services which they are giving, it's I believe it's awesome. And okay, just to share, like whenever we talk about GCP, and even I'm following from last 2 to 3 year all their next event, especially the keynote since the new leadership came. So their focus is pushing more on the open source as well as the multi-cloud, because yeah, Google is kind of an advocate to doing multi-cloud. They have come up with a few services which is again
yeah,
getting mature and getting the visibility on the other cloud platform.
yeah.
So is it a right time to start multi-cloud from day one, or like how, okay, if I ask like how a person should start learning about GCP, and at what point a person should think that the services which is for the multi-cloud he or she need to start putting efforts. So yeah.
See, one of the things I have an opinion on, I don't know really if this is the case, but I have an opinion on, is that the way Google is marketing multi-cloud is very important to also work in the current market, right? Now, AWS having done this for a long time and them having a large share of the market, they don't really care about multi-cloud as much because they have most of their customers captive, right? So maybe the push they're making for multi-cloud is not as strong. But for Google coming in from behind, like you said, right, they're a smaller share of the market. To get more people and to bring them together, they have to be pushing the multi-cloud story quite a bit, right? So it is it is kind of Google's leadership here when it comes to multi-cloud. Now, what are the kind of customers who are taking up multi-cloud to a large extent? They're usually the extremely big ones, right? The big companies are the ones who've either acquired another company which is working on alternate cloud, or they're merged with another company and they're working with multiple clouds. These are the kind of companies where there's a heavy demand for multi-cloud kind of setup. And do remember, this is huge, right? This is ridiculously huge, the size of these customers. They're running to billions of dollars annually in terms of spend on IT. So if you are into that kind of an environment, it absolutely makes sense for you to be looking at a multi-cloud opportunity. Yet at the same time, you don't want to do it too much because of the kind of tools that Google is bringing, like Anthos. You don't
Yeah.
have to know every single cloud, right? So it's making that easy and say, what, just focus on one. We take care of all the infrastructure, all the overlay on top of the multiple clouds, where it becomes a unified entry point for any person coming in, right? So multi-cloud as such is definitely important for the large customers, those who have acquired, those who have grown, those who are going internationally, those who have merged. For the smaller companies, not as much, right? So if you start too early trying to go multi-cloud, you're going down the wrong way, right?
Okay.
So think about it in terms of the business value that you're delivering instead of just looking at, hey, there's a shiny thing called multi-cloud. How do I go do that? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you should kind of layer what you want to do in what kind of context. But again, as I said, my overall thing is multi-cloud is definitely here to stay. There is value in it. Yet at the same time, like we talked about the earlier thing, right? If you want to be a developer, you have to understand networking, security. Nice to
Mm-hmm.
have, but not extremely important, right? A
Okay.
little bit of it is it's the same with multi-cloud now, right? With something like Anthos, you don't have to know everything about all the clouds if Anthos is giving you a
Mm-hmm.
single pane
Pane of.
of glass, a single view into all of them. So that's how some of these things are going to change.
Mhm.
And even though multi-cloud is a buzzword, in actual implementation for people who are coming in right now, it might not be that important to study each of these things separately.
Okay, okay. Yeah, okay. Just before we will go on something, I found that there is some issue going in the LinkedIn stream. So people who are
Okay.
watching, they can switch to the YouTube channel. Everything, the link is in my post. And again, feel free to drop the question. We will cover as like we are talking more and more around this area. Okay, yeah. So let's talk about some cool things like this, that how a person can get. I believe you have also bunch of that because you are having almost 13
Yeah.
GCP certification, which I believe all are whatsoever available right now in the market. So just changing the topic around the certification, because I believe this is kind of a favorite for everyone. And now there is a foundational level certification is also there. So can you share that for a IT person, which certification should he or she need to start, and what approach or mindset a person should take?
Uh, the On the first part, okay, what certification should they take? My answer is do what is appropriate to your line of work.
Okay.
Just because there is something again shiny, don't follow it for the sake of doing it. Just because there's certification and you want to rack up numbers saying that I got 10, 12, 13, it doesn't make sense, right? You're just going to disperse your knowledge, or not disperse, sorry, you're going to just spread it out too thin and not become very effective. Why does a person like me focus on a bunch of certification? Because it is in the nature of the work that I do. As a person who's advising others, as a person who's training people, you want to have a fairly high level overview of everything in Google Cloud as much as possible. So for me, it makes sense.
Okay.
But I was talking to another person yesterday who's way, way more brilliant than me. He understands things way deeper, much better than I do. He's got one certification, right? So, but he does that very well, probably, and he does that in a way that he's heavily in demand for the kind of work he does.
Okay.
So having all these certifications really doesn't mean anything if you're not going to be applying it in some way, right? Of course, for some people, it might also be a brand they're building saying that, hey, we've got all these certifications. But it would be better off if they're also able to apply it to whatever. And
Great.
which certification that they take up will depend on that goal then, right? For example, somebody you said wanted to be a developer, then maybe do the associate cloud engineer, then the developer certification, and then after a point in time you can even do a professional cloud architect. If you come from a DevOps background, maybe do the DevOps engineer if that is easier for you, right?
Okay.
But always I think the associate cloud engineer is a great start because it
Right.
sets the fundamentals for all the others. And
Yes.
of course,
Yes.
if you're coming from a non-technical background, the cloud digital leader certification is fairly good. I would recommend it for people who are doing sales, pre-sales, who are into project management,
Mhm.
program management, those kind of roles that are non-technical, but you still need to have. Of course, you're working in the business
Yes.
technology,
Yes.
so you need to have an understanding of Google Cloud technically, but not
Right.
so much where you're going and implementing stuff.
Right.
So pick your goal, pick where you want to be, and pick a certification that is appropriate to you. And over a period of time, maybe you can move on into other things, right? Once I was talking recently again, like if you want to become an architect, but you
Mm.
start off from being a DevOps engineer, that's something you can get to, right? You start off with all your core knowledge in DevOps, and then grow into an architect and and you get a high level view of everything on Google Cloud. So yeah, pick your goal and
Yeah.
follow the certification that is best and most suitable for that.
Sure, sure. I believe this is a very valuable things which you are sharing. Yes, and one thing I would like to share, guys, that associate certification for GCP is a bit technical one. They are covering a lot of things. You really need to know kind of a practical experience. You need to really play with the console And Satish is having a full playlist on his channel. His channel name is Awesome GCP. Again, you can connect with him on his LinkedIn, or I will update the description in this YouTube video link, as well as again I will publish a post on LinkedIn. You can follow his channel. He created again lot of content, not only about associate cloud engineer, but for the cloud digital cloud leader, as well as professional architect, data engineer. And trust me, guys, creating content is it required a lot of efforts. Really
Yes.
appreciate, because
It
yeah,
is.
lot of
Yeah.
doing editing and creating PPT, and that thought process a person need to put to create maybe even a
It
10
is.
videos. And yeah,
I do agree. It is a very difficult process.
yeah,
It's a very time-consuming process.
yeah.
Some videos, like I said, sometimes take me, even though it's like 10 slides, it takes me like a week to make it, and then to render it, to upload it, and to make corrections. There's so much effort involved in it, and but at least the one thing that motivates me is to see all these people who are benefiting from it. Though it doesn't directly benefit me monetarily in any way, there is a soft returns in terms of seeing people succeed, people grow. And one thing I do want to say, thank you for plugging all of this for me. Clearly, you've made your notes of some of the things that I've been doing and what I have done. And thank you for talking about it.
No, really, okay. I can tell you one secret. I follow your notes, especially the Medium article. I think you sat for the networking beta exam back in, I believe it was in January 2019. Okay, and you publish your note because there was a two beta exam together launched for security. I believe professional security engineer as well as
Right.
network engineer, and you are
Yeah,
the one who published his you can say experience around that, and I follow that. And I also sat for that exam back in 2019, and really it's helpful because creating content is not an easy job. But yes, whatever like you are creating, I see it is valuable. That's why like i
I
i,
do
I
agree.
always want to appreciate, because I also tried the same kind of thing, and I know that sometimes I just create a video without even editing, because sometimes I feel, oh man, it will take so much time. I
Yeah.
don't have a time. Let's publish it. Let's see if it can be benefit. Feedback is always welcome. So, but really appreciate. So, okay, just to yeah, touching around this part, that yes, this question I believe you are getting more than how to become a GDE, because you are the few handful persons, especially in the Google Cloud space. I know one of the other good friend of maybe our common friend, Dharmesh. He is also a GD for GCP and
Yeah.
belongs to Mumbai community, as well as you are the another one. I think few people in India only a GD, and even a globally very few people who belongs to. So yeah, how a journey look like for a GD?
So a GD, in general, is somebody who understands the technology well, but also balances it quite heavily with reaching out to the community and you know getting the word out about those technologies. So a person who is only community led and who doesn't understand the technology wouldn't be suitable for a GD role. A person who's extremely technical, who's very good at it, but then who doesn't do the outreach to say, what, here I'm going to talk at events, or I'm going to write blogs, or all of it. If they don't do any of those kind of community outreach, again, they're not a good candidate for GD, right? So, like other programs, the Google team continues to look for, even today, they're very actively looking for good people who have a good blend of technical knowledge and also who are willing to go um, take their knowledge and spread it out to the community, teach them, mentor them, help them. Those kind of traits are what ideally makes a GD, right? And the way the GD is chosen, it's not an exam, right? You
Okay.
don't get a certificate for being a GD. People who know you in the community, they nominate you for being a GD, right? So, for example, I was working with one person, and that person, and multiple people, right? And I see, hey, that person is contributing well, has good technical knowledge. I'm going to talk to the Google team and say, no, this person is a good candidate.
Okay.
I was reached out to alternatively by somebody from the Google community team, right? So somebody who manages the Google community. We've been doing a lot of events together. I talk at a lot of events, write these blog posts and all, and we've known each other for years, right? So that person reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to be part of the GDE community?" Right? Um, so it's not a major qualification. It's not a certification.
Mhm.
But it is a feather in your cap. Um, when you're saying somebody is a GD, because there's a certain recognition for their technical capability and for the fact that they are mentoring others, they're helping others. And just to add a plug for the program itself, the uh, the Google community team is definitely looking for more people who can be good GDs. And I think for Google Cloud, definitely there is. There's also for
Mhm.
machine learning, and I think for Flutter and some of the other
Right.
technologies also
Yeah.
as open positions for GDE, right?
Sure.
So those who are good at this, those who are doing this already, please apply, and they
Sure,
will take
I
care.
believe yes, yes. Just again, I always try to bring that. Like I'm also a community driven. The first talk which I gave, you can say in a large audience, was in DevFest 2018 Mumbai.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
and I feel like it was again the simple scaling with compute engine. I prepare a demo that how a compute engine scaling can happen as the load is growing. Okay, so but I remember the first time I faced the audience, I was shivering. Okay, so yeah, people were there. Maybe first 5 10 minutes, I was not able to too much. You can say comfortable to talk, but yeah, gradually it happened, and I have spoken. I think 3 to 4 Dev Fest back in 2018 and 19, and I know like since the last 24 months, it is going online, and you've been to be the core. You can say speaker as well as contributor in that area. So guys, be open, be ready. Don't feel that you need to be super advanced to deliver a topic. It can be a
Yeah.
basic topic, but it is something that your passion need to be shared with others, and again, it will be helpful to meet people to understand and learn together. We can't say that we know all the technologies, but that is where I believe communities always help. And Google have a very large community, not only in India but outside India also. I think in every country, every region, they have a big presence. And yeah, uh, that's
I
what. Yeah.
I would like to double click on one thing that you said, right? The fact that you don't have to be a super expert to be
Yeah.
able to help the next person, right? If you're going to help somebody from where you are, you just need to reach one step lower. You don't have to be at the top of the flight of stairs to help somebody who's at the bottom, and maybe that gap is too far also to help them. If you know a little more than the next person, that's good enough to bring them up to your level, right? And that's the goal of mentoring, that's the goal of helping. At no point do I consider myself an expert in Google Cloud. Very honestly, the certifications are one thing, right? I
Mhm.
meet people regularly who are much better at the details of Google Cloud than I am, but from the minimal thing that I know, I'm able to help a lot of others, right? And you're able to bring them up to my level. And what you said is very important, right? That even if you're not the expert, once you get that first experience, you get also the motivation, right? That adrenaline rush that I've done this, I've helped one person maybe, and I can do this maybe for the next person, the next person. And you eventually, I mean, you're quickly getting into community outreach, you're probably getting into be a GD, because you're combining both these, right? Learn, teach, learn, teach, learn, teach. And that helps you, that helps your career also. So yes, please do what Chirag said. Teach
Yeah.
well, you know a little bit.
Yeah, okay. I believe Jitendra is asking this question, and you cover it totally.
Yeah.
That anyone can become GD. It's not just about any exam or any title. It's all about your own enthusiasm to be part of community. Join again. Just find out from your area any GDE group or Google Cloud community. Just search on uh, Google search engine, because previously it was on Meetup.com, but now they have their own dedicated sites, so anyone can join. Reach out to contributor, reach out to the I forgot, organizers. Yeah, reach out to organizer and share that whatever you want to deliver. They can organize a talk. Again, it can be virtual, or if in person allowed, then according to the situation, it can be. And then yeah, go ahead, try to share, try to meet people, try to learn. Maybe next time, be open for the feedback, and gradually it is something going to happen. I am sharing from my personal, like I mentioned that I was super hesitant to talk, but yeah, I was able to deliver the same talk at 4 different places, and each and every time my confidence level was a different level, and again, demo always failed while doing in live, but yeah, it's a practice. It worked out. Okay. Two questions I want to ask. Okay, one is it is a very favorite topic for most of I can say our student community, and I really appreciate the people who started learning the emerging technologies at the very early stage or the early age, especially machine learning, AI, and Google is again pioneer in that area. So what is the path a person need to follow, because again you are coming from an experience background, you have done the development, you learn about the architect part, and as Google is coming up with the machine learning certification is one. So what was your secret behind that, if I ask that, how you are able to, I read your again blog post, you mentioned about the struggle which you are facing, because it's a different topic, but yeah,
Yeah.
can you share more on that?
There's nothing much to it but applying yourself, right? The diligence of just doing it regularly builds both your knowledge and your confidence, right? So whether it's a LookML certification, the machine learning certification, these are things that I haven't done a lot of work in my past. So I come in as good as a new joinee, what we call a fresher in India, right? A new joinee, a fresher, or somebody who's in college, right? Me and that person are the exact same boat, irrespective of all the years of experience I have, because it's on something completely different, right? So from there, all that you have to do is, read the blog post, watch the videos, get the hands-on exercise, and over a period of time, you're like, okay, I think I'm good enough now to maybe do a certification or do a project of my own, or even confidently apply for a job that demands that skill. That's pretty much it, right? Spend the time, put the effort, uh, learn, and then you can get what I have got to.
Great, great. Yeah. Okay. So with that, now I just want to hear, like, from the sales point of view, as a cloud digital leader exam is there,
Yeah.
because it is something that I got to know, because I'm always into customer facing role. Like I have
Yeah.
done the sales and pre-sales until date, like that is what I'm doing. So in my team, even also the sales team, they are also getting struggle, they want to learn GCP, they set the target that they want to achieve cloud digital leader, let's say within the next 2 months. So what approach they need to take? So like
The cloud
as you can
digital
see, they just know the just about the technology but not too much about the GCP. So yeah, just want to
uh,
hear it.
The Cloud Digital Leader is not a very difficult exam, especially in its latest iteration.
Okay.
So when the Cloud Digital Leader exam was released, it was very technical, very close to the professional cloud architect. But in on January 26th, they released a new exam, which seems to have a much larger mix of non-technical things. Like for example, general uh, general questions that a company or a customer who's moving into Google Cloud is going to ask, right? So it is abstracted at the level of a project manager, a digital leader, people in sales, pre-sales. And therefore, you don't have to get that in depth into what is Google Cloud. Of course, you need to know some, because when you're having a conversation, you need to be able to pull in technical details, because that's what you're selling.
Right.
That's what you're working with that customer on. But it's not that difficult an exam, and general cloud knowledge, general customer interactions, and a bit of learning on Google Cloud should be good enough to help you clear the cloud digital leader. I personally don't consider it an exam which is difficult in terms of the questions. Like
Okay.
it doesn't go into too much detail saying, "Hey, how do I run this command," and all that. It has a different kind of difficulty, because once you abstract it, things become a little vague, right? When you say, how do I run this project, there might be a million ways to run this project, right? So there will be a difficulty of that sort, but not so much about the technical details.
Okay.
For the technical aspects, it's enough to just read, in my opinion, the landing pages or the first product overview pages of all the products on Google Cloud. It gives you enough of an information to be able to tackle the cloud digital leader exam, right? And again, like you said, people in sales, I'm doing, in the past year or two, I've been doing a lot of sessions for Google's partners, in terms of sales, pre-sales, and on the exam that I recommend for them today is the Cloud Digital Leader. So yes, do try that.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I just want to add a word, because again, it is kind of a request to me from my friend circle who are into sales. They want to hear the thought around cloud digital leader. I believe, yeah, people are now getting motivated, especially the few people are online from my team, and I really want to share more words, maybe offline next week. That yes, it is something for everyone, any salesperson can do. And you touch a very important point, that go to the product landing page, just know about. And I personally feel the Google documentation is damn great. It is very
Very
structured
good.
way. Yeah, it is very structured way. As well as there is a categories that what resides in the analytical category, what reside in the networking, security, and so forth. There are category wise things and services belong, and then the landing page is there. So yeah.
That is also done well. One of the things I want to highlight, since the previous question was about the cloud digital leader, on the product overview page, there are a bunch of use case. I mean, just on the landing page, they say, hey, here are typical use cases. And then there are like key features. Those key features are also very important, right? The best practice about where it is applicable, where it is best used. That is very relevant for somebody who's trying to sell the technology, because the customer is like, hey, I've got, I'm getting a DDoS attack. I'm getting a volumetric attack from some random country, right?
Right.
How do I stop that? You need to know enough to say, okay, Cloud Armor would be the right one that can do that, right? So that is covered in the key feature section, which is again on the landing page, or at max the product overview page. So
Right.
yes, that is a good thing to skim through.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I believe it's a very helpful advice. Okay, just now want to cover a one important question, which is again rarely answered or information available, and you are the first one. I believe you write again a detailed blog post around that. Yes, you are a GDE, but you have something also important. You mentioned that you mentor and you teach the people or the partners that how to become the Google authorized instructor. What is the pathway around that? Yes, guys, blog post is there, but let's listen his thoughts also.
Yes, and when I wrote that blog post, I don't think there was any other information on the internet, and I don't think even now there is any other information that detailed on how
Yeah,
to go through the process of becoming a Google Cloud authorized trainer. So here again, let me tell you that the demand for Google Cloud authorized trainers is crazy, right? There's just so much demand because we have to train like if what is it, 4 million people, 40 million people. Where are we going to do this? How do we get these people trained, right? So you need people who are authorized to do this. Again, this is a skill. Like the GD was about technology plus community outreach, this is a skill that is technology plus the ability to teach, which, by the way, is a difficult skill, right? To be able to teach, to explain, to have the empathy with the attendees, to say, you know what, even if I understand very well, I don't look down upon you when you ask a question about how this works, right? So those are also skills that you need to do. The way to become an authorized trainer is Google has a process where they have aligned with what are called authorized training partners. So there are
okay.
companies like RQ1 in Latin America, ROI, Fastlane, RPS. All of these are companies who are authorized partners.
Yeah.
As a person who's already Google certified, and you need one of two certifications to become an authorized trainer, either the professional cloud architect or the professional data engineer. If you have that and you have the intention and the ability to teach well, you have to reach out to one of these authorized training partners and say, I would like to go through the process, right? And then
Okay.
there's a process that extends over time where they check your ability to teach, whether you have the whether you have the right mindset, the right approach in teaching. They evaluate that, and then they give you the when they give you the authorized trainer tag, right? So it's very much in demand now, very useful. Um, Pays good, so those people are looking to do that also, please do consider it. And that's the process. And for, like Chirag said, for the details on this, go through the blog post, and you're always free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I
Yes.
will help you. I can even connect you to some of the partners, the authorized training partners, who will help you through the process to become a authorized trainer.
Yeah, yeah, really. Okay, first of all, really, I would like to thank you to write a blog post, because there was a time I was also looking for the same kind of thing, and there was no clear process mentioned. And
Yeah.
that's why I remember you are the one who wrote the blog post, and as you mentioned, till date there is something but not the detailed content is there. And now as you explained all these things, even I remember that ROI training, I took a training back in 2016 about architecting, because again, as it's not about a certification, but it was again the early days of GCP platform itself, when they are getting mature. The custom VPCs, the controls were there, and I took an entire 8 hour training, and they gave me a certificate. But yeah, it was something early days for my career also. So
Yeah.
so yeah, good to know, like the those names which I heard few years back, and yeah, still everything is going well and growing. Great. Okay. So let's take a one question. I think you have covered, but maybe a quickly, just maybe we can reiterate. Can you just brief the basic technology one should be aware of before starting with GCP?
The first thing is, depending on your role, you probably don't need to know anything at all, right? If you're going to get into sales, pre-sales, project management, you can start from absolute zero, put in a little effort, and still understand Google Cloud. Everybody remembers in the same boat, right? All of us have transitioned from non-cloud technologies and then said, okay, let's move to cloud. I was doing things completely different, right? So don't hold yourself back just because you think you didn't get a graduation in computer science, or you didn't get a cloud oriented certification, right? The only thing that is required is that you put in the effort. I'll give you some examples. I know people who've shifted from completely different careers into Google Cloud. There are also students who are still in college, probably not even doing computer science as their main subject, right? Who are getting these certifications and who are making themselves stand out in terms of future job prospects. So even if you start with an absolute zero, remember, not only are you welcome, the resources are there, a lot of free learning material, a lot of job opportunities to incentivize you. All of that is great, right? But of course, in the learning, these are the key things that you typically learn once you touch upon the technology: storage, networking, identity and access management, security. I think those are my key four or five technologies that I think are very important.
Great. Yeah, really, it is again required, and it is kind of a fundamental of entire IT, be it a cloud, be it maybe have some legacy or maybe whatsoever the on-premises deployment. But yeah, these things are really required. Even I am also, like, I'm a computer science background. Yeah. So till date, even I'm trying to learn the fundamentals. Networking need to be there. Like IPv4, I believe it need to be on tips. We are living in a connected world, and I think everyone should know that how what is private connectivity part, or the private CIDR, and how the subnetting happen, as well as how the public routing happen. So yeah.
So those kind of things are necessary, but it's still fairly high level, right? You're not expected to go configure a lot of details. You're not going and plugging in lines and trying to do all the VLAN connections, or even management of the network is not required. So you can abstract or look at a few things that are key, but don't have to do everything there. And that's one of the easy parts, right? You can still have your startup or your application built up without having to know 3,000 things, in detail before you can start to function. So it's great that the cloud is abstracting all of that for you and giving it to you on a platter and saying, just go run your business, just go do your application.
Great, great. Okay. Can you? Okay, guys, I have dropped his channel link in the chat. You can go
Yep.
subscribe. The playlist is there. Just figure out if you want to learn the digital cloud leader, associate cloud engineer, so and so forth. And Satish, can you share that? Yes, Google is having lot of you can say quality content out there. Okay, first, obviously, I want everyone watch his videos. You will get, but yeah, if someone wants to follow, there is a quick lab. I believe that is
Brilliant.
very important thing. So, can you
Yeah.
share that how to leverage all those programs, or as a GD, if you have something, some kind of what I can say plan to share, that how anyone can start utilizing all those programs, it will be helpful.
So a few things that you can quickly look at. There is a YouTube channel called Google Cloud Tech. What I do is when I am at the gym, doing cycling or using the treadmill, I just keep those videos on all the time. So I'm just watching it all the time, all the new ones that are coming. That's a good approach. But the theoretical aspect alone is not enough. You need to get hands on. The problem with trying to get hands on something like the cloud is like saying, I want to become an engine driver, right? I want to become a train engine driver. But where do you get the project for that, right? You can't go buy your own train. And it's something like that on the cloud, where if you're trying to set up some of these larger projects, just the setup is going to take a long time by the time you figure out all the other parts of it. Quick Labs is great in that sense, where it already has all of that set up for you and say, you know what, given all of this, here is the thing that we want to learn now, right? Given all this other setup that we've done, here's the extra additional thing that they're doing, right? Or is the extra additional thing that you're teaching. That is extremely useful, especially when it comes to cloud, like I said, where if otherwise you had to set up all the other things, networking, compute, this thing, before you can get your hands on something, it's not very motivating, because a lot of your time is spent just in doing this, right? So Quick Labs is absolute gold when it comes to learning, right? So please use that as much as possible. Quick Labs is also coming up with two different kinds of exercises, right? So I think this is in the public domain as of now. So I think I can speak about it, right? So one of the problems with Quick Labs kind of thing initially was that they set everything up for you. They even give you the commands, and you can just go copy paste things and say, this is done. But really, you've not really learned it, right? So one of the new things is they've got these challenge labs, or one new thing called there's a break and fix lab, where they say there is a setup. We want to achieve this, but something is not working, right? So now you're challenged, saying that how do I solve this problem? And that is an extra level of learning. So
Yeah.
take up those kind of things also for your learning. I also want to plug a bunch of great books and a bunch of courses created by multiple people, right? Ranga being one of them, Dan
Right.
Sullivan, Sandeep has written a book on DevOps.
Mhm.
Conrad has a book on professional cloud architect. All of them seems to be getting great reviews. So if you're the kind of person who likes to read books, do
Mhm.
that.
Right.
The other thing I do is also try to keep in touch with all the blog posts, and
Mhm.
also, if you're already entrenched in Google Cloud, to
Mhm.
be looking at what are the latest release notes. That is useful. I say, what's a
Yes.
new update? So a lot of avenues to learn. All it requires is your effort and your focus. Right? The
Exactly.
content and the material is there at your disposal.
Great, great. Yeah, yeah. Just to cover a few things. Yes, the quality content is guys out there. It's all about effort. Just take as a joke. I know few people who just did a copy paste to complete the quick lab to win some swags. Please don't try to do that. Okay, it may be not be helpful, because yeah, winning a swag, I don't think. Okay, one time is cool. If you want to win such thing, you really need to put efforts. You will get a lot of good goodies delivered at your doorstep. And another thing is, yes, you mentioned about the few other folks in the community. So 2 to 3 weeks back, I had a talk with Ranga also. So guys, it is on my channel. You can watch. He also shared a lot of tips, and he also shared his vision that what is behind in 28 minutes. And as well as Conrad, there is a kind of cloud leader talk which I was doing with the people whom we are connected every day. They are posting a lot of content around cloud and inspiring each and every one. So you can watch all those things, follow the experienced people suggestions, and try to build the journey. I believe that that is the way to go, because there are a lot of things out there, but you need to decide that what, in which field or which stream you want to do, be it an infra architect, be it maybe a developer, be it maybe again the ML guy, or maybe some other technology. Cloud is for everyone. Just keep this thing in mind, right?
Yes. Cloud is welcome to everyone, absolutely. And there's a lot of demand. Not only are they welcoming you, they're probably going to give you a red carpet welcome with all these goodies and all these amazing pay packages and all, because the demand is there, right? Big customers need it. They need your help. They need your expertise. So get good at it, and they will be breaking down your door to get to you.
Great, great. Okay, so yeah, just want to hear any last thoughts, maybe what you want to share with each and everyone.
I think I see some questions on the right side. Maybe I'll just quickly respond to that, and those can be my thoughts. Carol mentioned join the GDG community, and that is a very great point. right? Because there's a lot of interaction. You know what the others are doing. Speak at these events, and in speaking, you're going to get better at multiple things. That's brilliant, right? So please do that. Jitendra asked a question: can you be an authorized trainer and do it alongside your IT job? That usually doesn't work, and it's something that I strongly recommend against, because these trainings usually last like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, because these are big topics, right?
Mhm.
And if you try to kind of two time it, it's not going to work out very well, because when there is a fire somewhere, you've got to abandon the other client,
Right.
right? So even though it's theoretically possible, it usually does not work out, which is one of the reasons why I don't take up a lot of large consulting projects, right? It's a,
Mhm.
and the amount of and please do not underestimate what it takes to do training. It is very difficult, right? There's so much preparation, because every person who's come to that training could be better than you, right? So you have to level up your knowledge. You need to create the material. It takes a lot of time to create material. So I would recommend, don't try to two-time training and your regular job. Keep it separate. There is enough income and there's enough work in being a trainer that you don't have to moonlight doing one or the other. So that's my response to that.
Great.
Peter asked, what is the importance of certifications in building a career? I think it's very useful. It's not a
Mhm.
necessity, right? I have in the past been fairly well known for my Go work, say in Golang or previously in Java or C Sharp. I didn't have a certification, right? But
Mhm.
today the demand for cloud is so high that companies don't have a good way to qualify people. You know, they might not. They want people who are kind of pre-approved in terms of, hey, you have at least some knowledge, right? It's not enough by itself, it's not sufficient, but it is very good to have, and it becomes a way for you to stand out. If there are 1,000 people applying and you've got a certification and they don't, you're going to get one single extra point at least, right?
Yeah.
And that is useful when building your career, because that one opening could open up even more doors for you. So
Yeah.
in that sense, I would say certifications are useful, and I would recommend it. But of course, I'm not going to demand that any person who's going to work with me, say if I'm running a project, has to have a certification. Absolutely not. If they can prove without the certification that they're good, I'd welcome them on board, right? But it just becomes longer to get to them,
Mhm.
because we will have to do the interviews, figure out, do they really know, compared to somebody who says I've got the certain, then I know, okay, they have already some knowledge, right? And we can take
Mhm.
the conversation from that level rather than start from zero. So
Great, great. I believe, yeah,
I've
it
answered.
is really important. Okay, I can tell you, like, I have done the early GCP certification back in 24 end of 2014 and 15. If maybe people can recall, there was something compute engine certified developer. Okay, there were 5 pack of certification. I have done. Yeah, most of the people
Okay.
not where they are reaching. I still have those certificate with me, and it was the same exam. Like it is on that criterion, that platform, and
Yeah.
I think those exams, like it is work, like I taken from home. Okay, back in
Mhm.
2015 I'm talking about, and at that time it was also the same, that you can't move your head, otherwise someone will, the message will pop up, whoever the what I can say, the people who is watching from the test taker side. And I have gone through that. And because it was again early days, it was a very focus on compute engine, cloud storage, cloud SQL, BigQuery, and app engine. I have
Yeah.
completed 4 only, and after that, GCP as again the platform getting mature, they come up and jot down again with their training program. The certification become the 3, like kind of a role based sysops. There is a sysops exam. I remember December 28, 2017. I gave it, and it was valid for 2016. It was valid for a year only. Okay, and in 2017, when the next and all those things started, they come up with this pro architect, and since I think the entire um, entire the catalog is there, the role base. But yeah, I learned that, but I want to just emphasize the point. It doesn't mean that if a person have a certification know each and everything. I faced a lot of rejection because I was positioning, it was cool to show, and I still have the laminated and framed at my native place, that yeah, I am a Google certified, because it was rare on those days, I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, But yeah, it took for me also a few years to understand, putting again same efforts again, like I'm into the field and understanding the customer requirement and thinking that how I can design solution, and really it helped me to understand more and more. But yeah, it is just like just a start, I am saying.
Pretty cool,
Great.
man.
Yeah. Yes. Anything last? Yeah. We are on the top of our time. So yeah. What do you want to share?
Um, just that I think there are great opportunities here in Google Cloud. Please make use of that opportunity, right? Strike while the iron is hot, make hay while the sun shines, whatever is the metaphor you want to use. But there's amazing stuff happening, amazing big projects that need to be done, and it's a very exciting time across all clouds. But because most of my focus is on Google Cloud, I can vouch for the fact that Google Cloud is doing extremely well in terms of the core technologies, in terms of its sales and marketing push. And you should definitely make use of that opportunity. Use all the content, learn, get qualified, do well. And I would love to see you at some of these events later on and
Yeah.
interact and see, and see that your career has grown and that you're doing very well. So until another time.
Sure, sure. Yeah, really. Thank you, Satish, for sharing your valuable time as well as a lot of valuable insight. And I believe the people who are watching right now and going to watch in future, it will be helpful for them to understand how they can start their journey, and especially the people having a question of about GDE and becoming the authorized instructor. Very important, because very less information out there, and really appreciate all of the work and contribution you are doing. Hope near future we will again collaborate and share more. And again, guys, feel free to connect with Satish, share your
Please.
feedback with both of us. It's not just me. Share like what you want to hear next time so that we can plan. And yeah, till that, stay safe and enjoy the cloud learning. Take care,
Yeah.
guys. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.